Today, in this installment of our Lenten series, we're going to be talking about, believe it or not, the hypocrisy that has always plagued the church, continues to plague the church, just as it did in Jesus' day. Let's confront the judgmental spirit head on. We're going to read John 12, verses 1 through 8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at the table. Mary took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped the feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, because he was a thief. Having charge of the money bag, he used to help himself to what he wanted about when things were put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. For the poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me." Not everybody knew what was going to happen to him yet, except the disciples, and even they were staunchly in denial. The location where all this took place was at Bethany. And Bethany is the home of Lazarus, who Jesus raised from the dead. So it has a deep significance because everybody knew about Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. In fact, people came far and wide because they wanted to actually see this man that Jesus had raised. Sometimes Lazarus was almost more popular than Jesus in the whole thing. But it was a significant thing. The significance of Bethany, it's been a place of miracles and deep friendship between Mary and Martha and Lazarus and Jesus. And it's only about 4 miles outside of Jerusalem. So it's really close to Jerusalem. Lazarus' presence, of course, in this is a living testimony to the power of Almighty God. And the occasion was a dinner for Jesus. They were having him as their guest of honor. And so, in these situations, Martha always took charge of getting things ready and stressed herself out about it, of course, wanting everything to be perfect. And we all know hosts and hostesses that are like that they can't sit down, they can't stop, they got to work. And so sometimes, unfortunately, nobody really relaxes. Now, Mary's role was to perform an act of profound devotion. Very much so. The pure nard was worth about 300 denarii. And she used part of it, not all of it. The perfume was a symbol of wealth and status. And Mary was giving up something to Jesus very, very valuable. And so, naturally, no good Nick like Judas, wanted to take the low road and find some way to mar what she was doing. But bowing down to anoint his feet, to prepare him for his burial, to wipe his feet with her hair, which is a symbol of devout devotion and subordination. She used his hair as a way to break social norms too. While she did it, she let her hair down in public, which was an absolute no-no. But the oil had to be wiped up by something, and it was too expensive to just throw on some rag. Judas, why was the ointment not sold for 200 or 300 denarii and the money given to the poor? Well, I'll tell you why it wasn't, because it was there for Jesus' funeral. And they knew that it was there for Jesus' funeral. He was concerned about financial stewardship, like they were in this to try to get rich out of the deal or something. He never understood any of it. I don't think he understood a thing, but he was necessary. He had to be there. Judas' hypocrisy and ulterior motives were revealed. His role as the keeper of the money bag and the theft. Judas' criticism appears altruistic, but is rooted in deceit. He just wants it for himself. And his words mask his true intentions, his greed and his betrayal. Because he's a hypocrite. Judas' true intentions revealed he was a thief. His concern for the poor was a facade for his own gain. Pure hypocrisy. Judas, the hypocrite, pretends to care about the poor while plotting betrayal. How often do we see the same hypocrisy in our own church? And just so you know, if they were to sell this container of nard, say after they had already used it, and they say they got 250 denarii out of it, the money that Judas got to betray Jesus was worth only like a third of that, what that is. So that's how Jesus' life was traded for 40 pieces of silver. Something worth not that much. False piety and hidden agendas are exactly what we're calling out here. What you say and what you mean. There are instances where church members criticize others while holding their own sins. Other examples of judgment attitudes masked by false concern. Oh, really? Oh, my goodness gracious. There's all kinds of false concern about certain things. I think one of the things that Jesus calls upon us to be is sincere. Jesus commands Judas, leave her alone, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. He was protecting Mary's act of devotion from criticism, because all Judas was trying to do was make himself look cool. That's all there was to it. Recognizing the significance of the sacrifice of her using this nard over her material concerns. So there is a lot of things going on in this house. Jesus is at the table. Mary is at the table. Martha is scurrying around the table while there are other guests at the table, and these were the things that they were talking about. Jesus highlights the importance of Mary's devotion over Judas' false piety, emphasizing spiritual priorities over materialistic views. Hopefully, our faith is worth more to us than 300. Actually, 300 denarii is a lot of money. 300 denarii is probably about 10 months of work. It's your wages for about 300 days of work, a denarii a day. Jesus called out Judas' hypocrisy. Now, are we ready to confront the judgmental attitudes within our own hearts? Are we encouraging others to do the right thing? Are we people that are glad to see fun things happen and beautiful things happen? Or are we the person that's always trying to run somebody down, run an event down, or challenge people's motives on everything when we have our own motives in mind? Examine your motives and actions. Judgment in the church sometimes, his behavior to modern day judgment. There are people that are disingenuous, sure there are. But there are people like that in every group. We have to know who they are and keep our distance from them. There's many instances where people in churches criticize each other while engaging in similar behaviors. Criticizing others' financial choices while being materialistic themselves, condemning others' lifestyles while secretly struggling with their own issues. That happens a lot. It's time to stop pointing fingers at one another and start looking in the mirror. Sometimes, are we any better than Judas? Are we posers, as they say? Are we just trying to pull off an image? Reflect on your attitude and strive for true, genuine compassion and humility. Some some practical things that we could do that would help with this. Number one, confession. Admitting our own faults and seeking forgiveness. Creating a culture where confession is encouraged rather than judged. Providing opportunities for private or communal confession within church services or small groups. If people want to do something like that, we as Lutherans don't have to do it, but we certainly can. Confession is a good thing. I confess usually to my friend. But, confession is in confession. I'm certainly open to anybody that wants to talk to me. Showing genuine love and support for them while they bear their souls. Implementing programs or initiatives to promote acts of kindness and selflessness within the community. Mary was completely selfless. Mary wanted to show Jesus her commitment and her love and devotion for him. Encouraging parishioners to engage in volunteer work, support local charities. Biggest thing we can do sometimes, just like at that table, is humble ourselves in our interactions. Teaching that it's better sometimes to remain quiet and do a lot than to be boisterous and do really, when you get down to it, very little. It's time to practice humility in our daily lives by serving others without seeking reconciliation. The key points of the service, in my opinion, number one was Mary's act of devotion to Jesus. What she did for Jesus in front of them was very impactful. The whole room was filled with the fragrance. Everybody was involved in it. It was a model of genuine worship and sacrifice. Judas, his hypocrisy, was a warning against false piety and judgment, something that we're all guilty of at one point or another. Jesus' response, a call to defend true devotion and confront hypocrisy where it lives. We need to look at this situation and what happened during these nights and make sure that we're on the straight and narrow path that's following Christ's ways, the forgiving ways, the kind ways, not the judgmental and the hypocritic ways. This sermon might not be one that gets you up to jump up and down, but we are almost to Easter. Soon the sermons will lighten up and we'll talk about happier things. May God bless you. Have a good day.